Chris Farfoy.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Can I begin my contribution by acknowledging two people. First, the Labour Party education spokesperson, Chris Hipkins, who has recently become a father. I haven't had a chance to speak since I found out that news, so congratulations to him. And also to his partner Jade on the arrival of Charlie. And also can I acknowledge the current Minister of Education, who announced her retirement from politics yesterday, who also happens to be a list MP based in my electorate of Mana. I just want to take a very short time just to acknowledge her. I've had 3 elections against her, and I won't mention that, the record already shows that. But just the demeanour in which we've held our campaigns have been good, respectful and many times humorous. So I'd just like to acknowledge Hekia as a political opponent locally. Having said that, there have been many times where I've tried to whip up activity against her locally, against some of the changes that she has made in education. And certainly the one that I think of note is when she backtracked on class sizes. And I'd like to acknowledge the teachers of my electorate for getting out one early morning at a Porirua Chamber of Commerce meeting that was held and making their voice known, not just locally, but on behalf of all teachers and schools around the country to send the message that what the government was doing at that time was wrong. There's also a push at the moment to say that the current moves by the government in a number of areas, but also within this legislation, is wrong. And one of the benefits that you have of being a Wellington member is every so often you can sneak away while the House is sitting to be able, not sneak, I had to leave, to be able to attend events. And this morning I had the pleasure of accompanying the NZEI Better Funding, Better Learning bus outside the Titahi Bay School this morning. And I think the government should be very concerned about some of its moves on education, because a lot of the parents that I spoke to outside Titahi Bay with the NZEI members from Titahi Bay School and also from Holy Family School in Porirua this morning had an excellent response to the campaign that the NZEI is running to ask for better funding for schools and learning and for in general support of the state education sector. In the next half of my speech, Mr Speaker, I want to talk about principles, because I think, as one of my other colleagues has mentioned the position of a super principal. And I think this is where the government does have a misunderstanding of principles as they operate now, because I believe that at the moment, certainly the principals in my electorate that I have contact with are already super principals. What we ask of them is immense. Not only do they have to operate as an educator, but as a chief executive to make sure that they can pay the bills, but also they are the chief social workers and mentors and motivators, not just for the staff, but also for some of the parents who have issues with their children that are going to that school. So, you know, they're the ones that are there when I'm meeting them that are talking about, and out of one side of their mouth, they have to make sure they can tell me their concerns around the education sector, while also ushering in children to get apples from the apple box that's sitting in their office because the kids want some food. So to give them the possibility that there will be an Uber principle and under the current legislation, I think is a fundamental misunderstanding of how important a role a principal is in a community. Which comes to my final point that I want to make that was raised to me by a local principal, and that is not an educational change as such, but a change to the State Sector Act within this piece of legislation. And there is concern that if we do have this change, Mr Speaker, it will take away the ability for principals to be a mouthpiece for the community. Because there is the ability within for the State Service Commission to say, well, there's a contract, but we're adding this onto it. And there is concern within principals who have a track record of standing up for the community, regardless of which stripe of government is in government at that stage, and being able to stand up against whatever changes the government is saying, because it's not in the best interests of their schools, their families and their communities that a change is being made. So there is concern that this piece of legislation may muzzle that community voice that a principal has. A principal is not just someone who sits behind a desk and orders teachers around. They are someone in the community who is seen as a leader in their community, and I think this piece of legislation is very damaging to that position and their standing in the community if they aren't able to have that leadership role and speak out on important issues, and I think that is a major danger in this legislation.